Hey, it's Francis Lamb, host of The Splendid Table. Every week on our show, we talk about food and cooking and the meanings of food and cooking. We talk with the most interesting people in food about their techniques, their culture, and everything in between. Whether it's about how fried chicken took over the world or how Instagram changes the way people are actually eating. It's a food show where everyone is welcome. Come join us. You can listen to The Splendid Table wherever you get your podcasts.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network. HRN is food radio supported by you. Learn more at heritageradionetwork.org.
This episode is brought to you by Wisconsin Cheese. We've been making cheese in Wisconsin since before we were even a state, which may be one reason why we win so many awards for it. It's what happens when a whole state dreams in cheese. Find your next favorite cheese at wisconsincheese.com.
I'm Allison Kane, and welcome to In the Sauce, a podcast about building consumer brands from the ground up. I love doing this show because I get to interview everyone from production gurus to marketing and social media mavens, anyone who can guide me on this crazy journey. This is the story of building Haven's Kitchen sauces, but it's also the story of every growing brand because we're all in the sauce. Today, I'm talking with Malik Ducard, Chief Content Officer at Pinterest, where he's responsible for setting the global content strategy. Previously, Malik led teams at YouTube, first as a global head of family and learning, where he led the platform's most high-profile content development funds, then as vice president of content partnerships, where he led development for some of the platform's key responsibility and public interest partnership efforts, including learning, social impact, kids and family, health, human rights, and racial justice. Before that, Malik led digital distribution for the Americas at Paramount Pictures. And he's here. Hi, Malik.
Hello. Hey, so great to be here,
Yay.
Allison. Thank you for having me.
I am thrilled you're here. Everyone who knows me knows I think, like one of Pinterest's perhaps like first users, literally. I am a super fan. I'm so excited because I just have a hunch that food and beverage brands might be underutilizing the platform a little bit. And so I'm excited to have you here to give us like all the behind the scenes. But before we get into all that, I just maybe your role, you're one of like the sort of biggest people I've ever had on the show. So if you could break down your role at Pinterest a bit and then maybe sort of how you got there from the other things that you were doing.
Sure. Well, let me say again, I'm so happy to be here, and I'll kind of maybe give kind of the big picture of what I do and what the team does on in content. So we have the huge opportunity and good fortune to really work with great creators and producers and publishers like yourself and merchants to really help them to connect with our users, pinners who are on the platform. And I know we'll get into this a lot, but Pinterest is such a unique and special place, as you know. You've been there from very early on, and what really drives the content on the platform and the people who bring content to the platform is the people who come to the platform for the content and what they're looking for. Like they really are looking for actionable content, inspirational content that helps them to seed ideas and then do those ideas. So we really work with people and people who create and have content and experiences that really, really want to connect with that type of person. So it's a very uplifting place. So my role is to work with an awesome team of people internally and awesome partners and folks like yourself who work with the platform to help make those connections. And to your question of like, how did I, what was my path here? I have always loved storytelling, and I have always loved storytellers, and technology, and that's always been a part of my life. So at Pinterest, that really intersects in a major way, and in other roles that I've had. So I've been at Pinterest now for 2.5 years. Prior, as you mentioned, I was at YouTube for almost 11 years. Again, working with great creators in areas like family and education and social impact. And I've just always been a big believer that the power of storytelling and the mechanisms of storytelling can really, really be a positive in people's lives. And when you look at the internet today, there's a lot of challenges.
Negativity,
there's a lot of negativity, and I love that at Pinterest we're really trying to do it in a way that is uplifting for not only our users, but sort of the broad community at large. I'm from New York originally. I'm from the Bronx, New York, and I live in Los Angeles. I've been here for a long time, half my life now. I've got 3 kids, and my path has been really a journey of storytelling and technology, and the two coming together. So that's sort of been my path here.
No, it's very cool. I mean, for you specifically, I feel like that's almost like being on the gold rush at a certain time in our history, right? Because we have shorter attention spans. Everything is moving to visual video. And I think as a brand, I always think about it as like people are so busy. It's really hard sometimes to see the signals through the noise. And there's no better way to get to the signal than a really great inspirational story told in visual cues. So being at the forefront of it must be really, really cool. And then I think what you were saying about Pinterest being different, I mean, I think I gave a speech to the Pinterest New York City headquarters.
Awesome.
Like I did a presentation in like 2014.
Wow.
And I showed this picture of this bulletin board that I had when I was in 8th grade. And in every room I've ever had growing up, I've had this massive pin board. And my family likes to like kind of make fun of me / joke like that I'm a visual learner because everything needs to be drawn. I need to see a map. I need to look at, but when you guys came up with it in like tech form, I mean, it's game changing. And I think it's different in that way from a lot of the other things. It's not about scrolling fast and getting like dopamine hits. It's about learning and digging in and learning more and scrolling slow, which I think is really cool. But it's also, I think, just a much more positive space. It's about education, and you can make this and you can try this. And I guess one of my questions is internally, how you define that, because I think it's tangible to someone like me who is a super user. It's really the only, other than LinkedIn, it's like the only platform that I even go to. But how you talk about that internally, and then I guess how you talk about the way that you see yourselves fitting into this broader ecosystem of content, whether it's TikTok and Reels and Reddit and Twitter, or whatever they're calling themselves these days, where your place is in that ecosystem.
Well, Allison, on your first question, I'd say the way we describe ourselves internally is really the way you just described it. Like the internal should be the external. It shouldn't be so separate. And, first and foremost, as you said, Pinterest is really a search engine, a visual discovery platform where you may come in with an idea. It might be the rough contours of an idea. It might even be the early stage of identifying even what you're interested in, because it's a visual platform. Like Pinterest has been so good for that use case of, I don't even know how to put words to it. I don't even, I have a sense or a tone, but it will help you to articulate it visually and then help you go from discovering what that idea is to deciding on how to build it, through how-tos, let's say, or through just simply seeing other people's experiences, because it's also a no judgment zone where people can share the successes, what doesn't work, all of that. And then ultimately doing it, once you've gone through that flow and you've landed on what you actually want to create, make, bake, buy, do,
design,
shop, design, all of that. So it really is this kind of inspiration to action engine. And then what's foundational to all of this is positivity. And the mission is to bring everyone the inspiration to create a life that they love. And I think, maybe the other part of your question is, well, how do we do that internally? Like how we talk about it is the same that we talk about externally and internally, but how do we actually build that? And that goes back to early days, 2014, when you presented in New York, and earlier to the foundational principles of designing a platform that would lift up content that is not ephemeral, that doesn't evaporate, but that really, really lands in a person's life in a more meaningful, sturdy way. So, for example, like in terms of, we've got, lots of metrics that we look at, but the saves metric is one that is really, really, healthy and strong, even more so than a like metric. When you like something, like you might like anything for the moment, but when you save something, that's saying, think about the things in your life that you save. That means that you're going to come back to it. That means that it means something to you. That means you want to do it, later on, or you're going to explore it in a much greater way. So we optimize for things like that and time well spent, not just time spent. Maybe that connects to the other question you had on how do we differentiate? I think a platform is what it optimizes for. And we really work hard to optimize not just for passive time, lean back time. We really optimize for time well spent, lean forward time. Like if there's a posture that I would say, our pinners are in versus postures that maybe, people might be on when they're other platforms, it's a posture of being leaned in and looking deeper in and doing versus just passively leaning back. And that's one of our key sort of differentiators in the landscape that we're in.
Yeah, no. And I mean, for those of us on it, it's real. And as you were talking about, not even knowing what the idea is and the time spent and the saving, I think power users, I designed the cooking school on Pinterest. I've designed every one of our, packages and logos through a mood board on Pinterest, places
so
I've
great.
lived.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and every one of those has a board, and I can go back and I look back at every one of those projects and remember when it was just a hole in the ground or when it was just an idea for a sauce. I mean, literally, it's wild.
It's like a chronicle of your life.
It is, and that is that's what those pin boards are in my high school bedroom for sure. It was like, I got a matchbook here and I cut out a piece of a magazine there, and somehow they all come together to to compose this life that you want to live. Maybe partly you're living sort of you want to. But then when you were talking about, I love the idea of like creating a place that's a little deeper where saves matter more than likes or impressions. I am hearing, a lot about the consumer, for lack of a better word, the attention span of people, a lot of the sort of negativity that comes from quote unquote doom scrolling, et cetera, on other platforms. If you're sort of holding the ground for positivity and creativity and time well spent versus time spent, where do you see, you must see some consumer behavior changing, certainly since, you started at YouTube even. And I guess how can you shed a little bit of light on how you adapt to that shifting consumer behavior, if you see it at all, or if it's just being totally over exaggerated and actually people aren't, shorter attention spans and all that.
Yeah. It's such a great question. Two thoughts on this. The first is, I'm a dad of 3 Gen Z kids, and I just as a family, we've been through a lots of the ups and downs of social media and the harmful effects and the peaks of opportunity, like all of that. And I know I don't think anyone is not experiencing that, and
right.
So I think that there's just from firsthand experience and experience of so many, there's more than a need to improve the landscape. Like there's a responsibility to the internet. I think was like one of the promises of the internet was to bring us together, lift us up, and educate, inform, and increase empathy.
Do no evil or something. Don't be evil.
All of that.
I think that was like, yeah.
And what we see is a lot that goes in the other direction. So, at Pinterest, we're really trying to prove out and are a model where internet, online, digital can equal healthy outcomes because it's what you optimize for.
Right.
And on top of that, we see a tremendous appetite for better experiences and more positive experiences. We just had our largest growth in users. We're at 518 million monthly users around the world. Gen Z is our largest and fastest growing audience.
Yeah, that's great.
On the platform. And to the question of, well, where are the user trends going? Where are people going? I think that there's another part of that question that is, what are the options that people have? If all the stores on the street are serving a certain kind of unhealthy content or food, like that's going to be the only option. And what we're trying to do is really offer up. And by the way, I'm also not saying every store on the street of the digital streets are unhealthy. Right. I'm not saying that at all.
I'm like solidly Gen X, so I already kind of think that. But, we're not going to disparage any of the stores on the street. But like, basically, this is like the nice, happy store on the street. And you're serving vegetables. Yeah.
And the sort of rate of people coming in is and especially the youngest generations. Like typically what happens with the platform is when a platform gets older, its user base on average doesn't get younger. The next generation says, no, that's where the older people are. We're defying that gravity, and our largest base of users is actually the younger generation who are using it to an even greater degree. The most engaged demo on the platform than the older generation. And I think it's, for a few reasons. One is it's because it's a safe and inspiring place where they can come to a no judgment zone and really explore their ideas without somebody, looking at them with shade or side eye, where they can, shape out their ideas of identity and aesthetic and all of that, again, in a no judgment way. And we see it in the results and research that being in this more positive environment is actually better for their well-being. Advertisers are also responding because they want to advertise, and merchants want to be in a place that has more of a positive sort of environment around it. So I'm really excited about that.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I was listening. Everyone who listens to this knows that I listen to Pivot. And I think at some point, Scott and Kara were talking about a certain platform that got like really scary and negative. And of course, advertisers are moving away from it because they don't want to see their thing next to something like really not okay. And, we're not big enough to be advertising big time, but I get it.
One more note. I think it's also really important to, have humility in all of this. Like we also aren't perfect. Like, perfect doesn't exist. And we're always, as a platform, working to improve and invest in our policies and enforcement. And when we come back from break, we'd love to share, some of the investments in areas that we're focused on around inclusion and diversity, and having a dynamic platform that actually reflects the sort of breadth of the user base. I think that that's another reason why Gen Z and so many populations feel safe and comfortable and at home on the platform. It's because they see their world. So we're always making investments in areas like that because we aren't perfect, and we strive to continuously improve.
That's awesome. Yes, we will talk about that and other things when we get back from a quick break. I'll be right back.
This episode is brought to you by Wisconsin Cheese. There's a reason when you think of Wisconsin, you think cheese. Cheese is a huge part of Wisconsin's history and future. In Wisconsin, the state of cheese, the tradition of cheese-making excellence began 180 years ago, before Wisconsin was recognized as a state. Immigrants traveled to settle in this lush green hills of Wisconsin, bringing their cheese-making traditions with them. These storied skills, combined with the freshest milk available, created a cheesemaking culture that is uniquely Wisconsin. Wisconsin's 1,200 cheesemakers, many of whom are third and fourth generation, continue to pass on old world traditions while adopting modern innovations in cheesemaking craftsmanship. Find your next favorite cheese at wisconsincheese.com.
I'm back with Malik Ducard, Chief Content Officer at Pinterest. So we started getting into it a little bit before the break, but this podcast is very much sort of focused on early stage emerging brands, primarily food and beverage, a little bit of beauty, a little bit of wellness. And, I would love to have, I think what you're saying is so crucial. I think everyone's exhausted by the outrage. It's just a lot of anger and a lot of outrage and a lot of grievance, right? And I think everyone just wants, they want to see things that make them feel creative and happy and optimistic. And maybe that is why you're seeing this massive, sort of influx of young people, because there's only so much that they can, do the other stuff.
I think you're right. I think that there's a tipping point that's maybe being reached that is, part of the reason. What you're describing, like engagement through enragement, like that is not,
Did you make that up, or is that a thing? Because I've never heard that.
It's a thing. It's a thing.
Okay. I'm just really not part of anything. I'm like, that's amazing. He just came up with that. Wow.
No, I will come up with lots of little rhymes.
Okay.
I like rhymes and tagline type things, but that one I don't take credit for. Okay. But it fits the the reality of what we've seen, and I do think that people are tired, of that, and part of what we try to do, and I also think it's what our users seek out from us. Like Pinterest is not a place where you come for the latest news in politics.
Right.
Or what's going on in this specific heated political debate. It's so much we sometimes get bucketed as social media, but it's really personal media. Like when I run into people and I mention, or they figure out, oh, like you work at Pinterest, like the first thing they do is they take out their phone
to show you their boards,
to show me, and it's like these are my boards. This is my Pinterest. Yeah. My Pinterest looks different from your Pinterest, looks different, but totally. It's what the fuel is. Your passion, and that's such a great environment for brands, for all kinds of brands, especially small brands. One stat that I think is so interesting is that when you look at all searches on the platform, 96% of all searches are unbranded. So they're not coming looking for always like a specific, brand. They're coming to look for a general item and get closer and closer. So it's a great opportunity for small brands and brands of all sizes to help with that guidance and help pinners to ultimately, shop and find what can help them turn their idea into like real life.
Totally. So that's like a perfect segue. And I would like you to pretend that you are launching a perhaps small condiment brand. I don't know where I got that from. And I was going to say cookie, and then I'm like, nah, I'm going to go with condiments. And you want to invest in some Pinterest advertising. Would you, I mean, we happen to have a leg up, which I should tell everyone. Part of the reason why we get the eyeballs we do is because before we had this company, we had a cooking school, and we hosted a ton of weddings there. So we have, I think, over 200,000 followers on Pinterest.
That's awesome.
And I was like a power user. And then I guess at some point I changed all my boards, and that messed me up, which was not good, but I've built it back up. But anyway, so you're brand new, you're launching this condiment company. You've identified that like young people are going to Pinterest. It's a really nice opportunity. I can show them how to grill the perfect hamburger, and then I can show them how to use maybe it's easy squeezy aioli. I don't know. What are the tools that you would use? How would you start? How would you engage?
Yeah, I would engage by really in a lot of ways doing what you did in the early days, like really start by building a presence on the platform, sharing content that you have. I'm speaking to the new brand from different other areas that they're investing in. If they have content on another platform, or maybe they use a third party like Canva to create content. Like what we've done over the last few years is make it much, much easier for brands, merchants, creators, publishers to interface with Pinterest, so they don't have to reinvent the wheel that they've already invested in. So one of the first things is like, don't redo everything. Like, Pinterest can be a good central location for a lot of the energy and investments that you've already made. Another suggestion I would make is lean in to, what works on the platform. Create boards of your own content, and create boards of, if you're a condiment company, maybe it's creating some recipes that or sharing recipes that has your product as an ingredient in it, and create sort of value for users and pinners to see it in context, but also use it just within the ordinary course. Another area that I would suggest is take a really good look at we have sort of an ongoing seasonal and moments trends calendar. So, July 4th, coming up in a couple of weeks, or whatever, the holiday is, we're likely on the platform going to be putting, a little bit more attention around an area, and users will naturally be searching for things. So maybe there's, outdoor barbecue, and the content fits within
picnics
the theme
and grilling
there. Picnics and grilling. And we have a site called creators.pinterest.com that actually has and houses this editorial calendar and the seasonal and moments calendar. So, the kind of maybe the overarching thing I'm saying within this area is pick up some of the tailwinds of where the trends are, what people are doing, and where we're being intentional around programming and editorial. The last thing I would say, I'd say two last things, is take a look at our trends. So, and this is trends.pinterest.com. And we put out ongoing trend reports that really it's a peek into the future of
the zeitgeist,
zeitgeist, and where zeitgeist is going to be in a few months, and the reason why we're able to do this, and the accuracy of our predictions, we call them. It's not really trends when it's to
It hasn't
happen.
happened yet, right?
It hasn't happened yet. It's predictions. The accuracy of the predictions have been at 80% accuracy. And it's because when someone saves, going back to earlier in the conversation, when someone saves, that saving is close to them, but it's also what they intend to do later on. So we're able to see the big picture of where things are going.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but if I ever sell this company, I would really like to be considered for a job. Apparently I should not expect to sell this company for like, I don't know, another 8 to 10, perhaps 15, 18 years or something like that. Supposedly my timeline has just gotten a lot longer in the last couple of years. But I'm just like, it's between you and Costco, I have to say. I'm like smitten. I'm smitten with Pinterest and I'm smitten with Costco. It's very obvious. I don't know if you listened to Acquired, but the Acquired show about Costco was like one of the best.
Oh, I haven't. I have to check it out.
Oh my gosh. What a great story.
Well, you have a home. You already have a home here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to hold you to that.
All right, please do.
I'm going to be like, remember in 2024 when I hotboxed you and made you offer me a job? But going back to, okay, so would the next step then be, so you establish a Pinterest, you make some boards, you make them as relevant as you can with the trends tool and the content creator tool, and you're very thoughtful. And then do you boost them with like an ad essentially?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And then is the idea then to, because I buy things on it all the time. Usually it's either design or, I've bought a hair care oil or things like that. I haven't bought food. But does Pinterest like you to send people back into the board, or is it okay to go out to Amazon, for example, to buy there? Like, is there any kind of trick or preference?
Yeah, the answer is yes and yes. Okay. So engagement, like within boards and on the platform, and really getting sort of the brand uplift and recognition, and making it more memorable and noticeable through consistency and spotlight, like that's I think one lane of really important value. Another lane of really, really critical value, I would almost call it like performance, or more direct through links. And we have really leaned into this, especially in the last few years, where we are very comfortable with people leaving the platform to fulfill their intention, and to close a purchase, and we believe that the more that loop can be closed, and Pinterest is a part of it, and our partners are part of it, they'll come back to Pinterest later on. We're not only proud of the time that you spend on Pinterest, we're proud of the time that Pinterest inspired you to go somewhere else or do something somewhere else, because we feel that just builds up overall value for our partners and our pinners. We've been doing a lot there.
Is there again, going back to said condiment brand, is there, for example, there are 3 types of content I can come off right off the bat, right? It's like just the picture of the sandwich with the, sauce dripping off of it. There's a video, of some, making that thing with a recipe. And then there's sort of like that, person teaching hi, I'm here, which I think of as a little more YouTube-y. But I'm wondering if there's any particular content that kind of resonates the best with the audience, or that tends to, I mean, for lack of a less transactional word, like convert people most effectively.
I think we want to think of the user journey and and this is how we think about it. What's the right content for the right user at the right time? So if a pinner is sort of broader in their ideas and really more kind of seeking to figure out what they want to do, like at that point in their journey, like doing a how-to video might be a little bit overly specific because they're not even sure what they want to do. So going a how-to might be too much. But starting more broad, that might mean and likely means it's images that are engaging or that can convey the direction of the idea, or getting more specific as they start to zoom into what they want to do. Curation content and boards that might have different examples of the project, or in this case the recipe, or the meal. And then ultimately, a video might be something that comes later on in the journey and might help to operationalize the inspiration that they had earlier on. So you can almost imagine it as a funnel getting more and more specific. So I think from a content standpoint, I want to be careful of saying like, hey, like, everything is great. And definitely don't want to come across as saying that. But I think like being really intentional about what user you're hitting and where like how you want to interface with them on their journey is really important. But to be clear, the platform is highly visual. Static, images is really massive and dominant on the platform. And we've been leaning into investments to make it even more dynamic. Like curation, as I mentioned before, is such an important part of the platform. And there's something like 500 billion boards that have been curated. Which is just staggering. We actually rolled out a new feature and product called Collages that actually allows you to take individual images and move items in that image and actually collage it with other images. So what one did with pins and
Mod
how
Podge,
you you're actually now able to do that within the frame and within the image. And here's the great thing, like let's say you had an affiliate link to the condiment, or to the purchase place that's off site of where you would buy it. If someone cut out that condiment and collaged it and put it into something else, that link would travel. And you would benefit from that overall curation.
Okay, that's very cool. I'm getting in there right after this. And then I guess for the brands that are just like too small, not enough bandwidth, but they see that there's a good opportunity for them just to make ads on Pinterest. You can make ads without having a home. Or no, like
absolutely, and ads are really important for pinners. In that, I think Pinterest is one of the only places where what we call organic content that's shared and paid content like ads sit side by side in a really natural way. And it's because very, very natural, because when the pinner comes through the front door, they're really seeking out the information that exists both in the ads content and the organic content. So that's ultimately, I think one of the biggest use cases of all that I described, that this new condiment brand can really be successful and break through. And I think a mix is always important, but I would punctuate it with that, because your audience is like literally coming to look to buy things, do things, create that meal, create that barbecue, that recipe, that setup.
Yeah, very cool. A couple more questions.
Yeah, please.
AI.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but I have started to feel like just in the last 6 months, like one of those old people who I used to make fun of. It's like, the Beatles are here and now the world's going to go to hell in a handbasket. Like, I don't know what happened to me, but like and I'm like, it feels very dystopian to me. I was reading, that I guess now that Reddit and Chat have or OpenAI or whatever have this partnership, like these language learning models are going to be grabbing all of this stuff from what people have written on Reddit, which is a very different tenor and a very different like amount and tone of content than the way that people interact in real life. People are not their better angels, I guess, online a lot of the time. And so, and that with, just the images that are liftable, probably less liftable than, copy, probably. But what can you just, because I don't really understand the whole world. So this is where I get to ask an expert, maybe a little bit about AI and the challenges that it presents, both to you and to maybe brands or even pinners, but also perhaps on a bright note, the opportunities.
Yeah. I think it's a fascinating area, rapidly growing. I've been in this space, like content and storytelling, my pretty much since I was like 8 years old, maybe even younger. I just have always loved it, and I feel like there's like epics, and there's going to be before this moment and after this moment. Like that's how massive
it is.
and important it is. And similar to our conversation about the internet, like I don't think the internet is inherently good or inherently bad. Like it's a tool, and what do we do with it? And I think that applies here too. I don't think AI is inherently, bad or inherently good. It's powerful, and it's up to human beings to leverage it for positivity. And there's certainly a lot of ways that it can and has been used for negativity. At Pinterest, we're really similar to how we think about like digital landscape and leaning into our sort of mission of giving people the inspiration to create the life that they love. We think about AI through the same lens. We're definitely thoughtfully exploring generative AI technology on how it can help to enhance the user experience. AI has played a really, really big role, and language learning models in particular, a really big role in helping our search and discovery engines and our visual discovery engines get better and better. Yep. So the matchmaking between a pinner's like intent of what they're looking for, what they might like, and what we're able to serve up, like we've seen massive progress there. And that's in areas like, guided search. We've seen and have leaned into AI on inclusion and belonging. I mentioned it earlier, but one of the reasons Gen Z really are leaning into the platform and coming to the platform, feeling safe on the platform, our fastest growing and largest audience is because they see themselves, and we're able to do that through AI. So hair pattern search is something that we launched, where we're able to, if you want to go in and filter your Pinterest by a certain hair type, because maybe you're looking for a new setup or what have you, we're able to help you to do that. Skin tone filters, where hey, I see how these outfits look on people that don't look like me, but now I can do that. Body shape and size is something that we most recently launched, and when you see some of the feedback, Allison, from pinners who just are really excited because historically they haven't seen themselves, and they didn't sometimes even know that was possible to do. That's technology, that's digital, that's AI, that's all of that for good. And ultimately, like I think like one of the things I really love about all of that is this is like the right thing to do, but this is like the business minded thing to do. We have seen engagement around these tools when we have diversity by default, when the screen is more of a mirror of society. We have seen engagement go up, and part of that engagement comes from Gen Z. But all that is AI, and that's how we think about it. And we're constantly, it's such an evolving market. It's pretty breathless, just personally, for me to even keep up with it. It's like there's like 100 articles a day, and I'm like, what? It's like so fast. But that's how we're thinking about it.
I mean, it's amazing. And we have a minute left. I think the world needs a happy, safe place. And I'm so happy to be a part of it. And I'm so happy that you were able to make time to come on the show and tell us a little more. And I guess if you are, I'll talk to your team too, because I'll probably get some incoming from brands that want to know just how to even start. And I think that maybe I can be a little bit of a conduit.
Yeah, we have a lot of resources. We just recently launched a whole academy, a Pinterest academy that breaks down how to use our marketing tools and advertising tools. And we even recently rolled out certification so people can actually, like, ad planners and others like that can get certified in Pinterest. Awesome. But Allison, I want to thank you for, like, there is no Pinterest without you and people like you who have really shown us the light. Like, Pinterest started, 14 years ago as an idea, and then a bigger idea that just has grown because of you, your community.
My pleasure.
we appreciate the partnership.
I'll put that on my cover letter. Malik, thank you again. Liam, thank you so much for engineering today's show, as always, and welcome back. And I will be back next week with another episode of In the Sauce. In the Sauce is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network. Food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.
Hey everybody, I'm Nick Latham.
And I'm Leah Bottima.
And we're the hosts of Were You Raised by Wolves?
Each week we try to make the world a kinder, nicer place.
Well, that's the idea, at least.
I mean, we try.
Have you ever wondered what to do if you're ghosted?
Or what to do when a friend asks you to borrow money?
Or the proper way to eat Cheetos?
You know, the big questions.
So please find Were You Raised by Wolves wherever you listen.